and welcome to another episode of Age of Geek podcast. I'm Marlee.
And I'm Steph. You see our faces quite often. Maybe you're getting sick of them.
No, never. You
Oh,
don't.
okay.
You don't.
Marlee's
You
gonna
don't.
answer for you guys.
You don't
You're
get
not getting
to be sick of our faces.
Wow. We're making some big presumptions right at the top of the podcast.
And it's coming from me this time. I feel like it's usually you, Steph.
It's usually me. Not today. Not today.
But yes, we are also joined by our guest, Scarlett, and we'll let her introduce herself and kind of just give us a little, background on you, kind of what you do, what people know you for, whatever you feel like.
Sure. Hi, I'm Scarlett. I am a professional cosplayer. I'm also a voice actor, and I am a huge fan of House of the Dragon as well as Game of Thrones, avid reader. So yeah, that's me in a very small nutshell.
Yay! We're so happy that you're here to join us.
Thanks.
This year we did a panel with her and a few other wonderful geeky people about video game to film and TV adaptations. Yes. And Marlee and I pretty much just talked about how much we hated
Uncharted.
I was just thinking Overwatch, but I have some issues with Overwatch 2 that I could talk about for hours too. But that's not what we're talking about today.
Yes, and then maybe in a little bit, Tracy, our friend Tracy, Age of Geek member and member of the Movies That Make Us podcast, he'll probably be joining us partway through if that still works out for him. So we'll see. We'll see if he pops in.
I feel like it's been a night of technical difficulties. I definitely had them. I feel like the only one prepared was Scarlett. So good job for having your issue together.
Yeah. It's okay. I tried. I was like, hopefully it works. I was like, I couldn't find half my recording equipment and stuff, so that's fine.
Yeah, you're also in the middle of a move, so like killing it.
Yeah, trying. I found a camera. I found my headphones, so I'm like semi-prepared. So we're good.
Oh man, it looks like Tracy just messaged us. He's not able to join after all.
Oh no, that's a bummer.
Well, we'll just be the girls tonight, which is kind of awesome because I feel like House of the Dragon is all about the girl power and even then sometimes too much of that.
Yeah,
it's so true though. So we kind of where we're starting out with this show. You have a couple of young girls. How old are they at the time? Like 14?
Oh, before we dive in, this is going to be a spoiler-heavy episode. So if you have not watched it, I watched it in 3 days, so I don't know what your excuse is. But go watch it now and then come back and listen to us talk about all of the spoilers and all of the drama and all of the incest and all of the.
Yes, definitely. This is a season 1 recap. So yes, definitely spoiler heavy. So this, just to give some kind of background too, so I guess before we even go into the main characters, so this series, it's based on like parts of the novel Fire and Blood, and it's set about 200 years before the events of Game of Thrones. So I feel like at this point, like everybody's at least heard of Game of Thrones or knows something about it. It's a very, very popular show. And so yes, this takes place way before, but the fun thing is that I actually really enjoyed was hearing all of the different like house names and like being able to recognize them.
Yeah, that was fun.
That we know that a lot of us know from Game of Thrones, and like even there was a Stark in there, and I'm like, hey, he was in it like this much. I'm like, I feel bad for your family in a couple hundred years. You guys go through some really hard stuff.
I mean, that's a little bit of an understatement there.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But yes, yes, it's true. So yes, we get into it with House Targaryen, which is like the dragon family. All we know is that they've been ruling Westeros now for a good chunk of time. Like they are very, very powerful, and I think it's all because of the dragons.
Yeah, they go over that. This is when you're actually openly seeing the dragons, because in Game of Thrones it was like, oh my god, there's eggs. Like they were all excited about the eggs. So it's kind of crazy. You don't think about it at first, but they're just flying all over the place.
Yeah, at one point they start naming the houses and how many dragons they each have. And Targaryens definitely have the most, but a bunch of other houses have protections of the dragon. And Targaryen, it's like a peaceful time when we kind of get introduced to the storyline. Which again, if you're a Game of Thrones fan, that's not something we see much.
No.
Of in Westeros.
There's usually someone hating on someone else, and there's alliances and all these things. And there is like a little bit of that. Like who to trust.
Triarchy is their big baddies going on kind of right now in House of the Dragon. Which
triarchy?
Excuse me.
Oh,
isn't that what they're called in the wetlands that Daemon's over there fighting?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I remember because it sounded so much like patriarchy, and I'm like, hey, I don't know if that's accidental. So that's kind of who Matt Smith Daemon is fighting at the beginning of the season. Kind of their baddies at the moment.
Yeah, so there is definitely like some there are some enemies, and they definitely they don't show a lot of battles in this one, at least not in the beginning. But there's definitely something going on. But for the most part, I feel like majority of this season we are in King's Landing. We're there at the Red Keep or whatever it's called, and we see our young character Rhaenyra, and she is, what am I trying to say? Like, basically she is the daughter. So she's the daughter of the king, but her mom is pregnant and is about to have a baby. And she's kind of getting worried about if this baby is going to be born male or female, because if it's male, then, well, now she is kind of irrelevant at this point, because in this world, the men rule. Like, that's kind of more what they go to. I don't think it's necessarily like you have to be male, but I think that's just more tradition. And so that's kind of what they people expect.
Yeah, this point going forward.
Yeah, and we definitely I feel like in true Game of Thrones fashion, we start off with a very, very shocking first episode. There's usually something really crazy that happens. It's that whole shock value thing that a lot of shows seem to do these days. Like, have you seen The Boys? Scarlett, have you seen that show?
Oh, yes, I have.
Right?
There's a lot of shock value in there.
Yes, especially like in the first episode. Oh, but anyways, yes. And the scene that I'm referring to, which I feel like scared a lot of people and made a lot of people kind of critical.
Well, it's graphic. The pregnancy,
because
the birth
it's a very
super graphic.
Yeah,
very graphic birth scene, and it was very traumatic. And of course, like, we see the king is faced with this choice of, do I save the queen, my wife, or do I save the baby?
And that my heir. That put so much bad taste in my mouth for Viserys at the get-go, because he chose to save the baby and mutilate his, and not like C-sections happen all the time. Like, that's what, so it was this brutal C-section thing because the baby was breech and they couldn't get the baby out.
But they knew it was a male at that point, didn't they?
I don't think so, because it was still inside of her.
Yeah, they weren't sure.
I guess that's true.
Yeah, they had no way of knowing back then. So.
I guess, that's what.
But having a living heir was so important. And not only
and just the chance of it being, of the baby being male, he was like, well, save the baby.
And like, as a mother, you kind of do at some point have this talk with your spouse, like, if anything happens, you got to choose like someone, and it's a personal conversation, whatever. But they took all of that consent away from the queen. And that was kind of what was the most like kind of horrific part of it for me.
Yeah.
Is they didn't tell her that's the choice they were making. They didn't tell her that in order to save the baby, hopefully save the baby, they were going to do this kind of procedure on her and cut her open.
Well, and it was kind of an experimental procedure too. Like the maester was like saying like, well, we haven't, they don't have a very high success rate or whatever he said. But basically he was like, you sure you want to do this?
Yeah, he's like, we've done this once or twice before with some scissors, so we'll just give it a go and see what happens. It might be fine, it might not. I was like, holy cow. All right.
Yeah, give her a little milk of the poppy and let's go for it.
Oh my gosh. Milk of the poppy. Fixes everything.
So she dies. And the baby also,
so
like, that was so super sad because they didn't let you know the outcome of the baby's birth either until you get to the funeral scene and you see the little pyre next to her pyre.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. The whole, like, for quite a little while, you think that, oh yeah, here's the conflict for the rest of the season, and now Rhaenyra has to kind of fight with her baby brother, for the throne and all of that. But then that's not what ends up happening. And yeah, they go over to this funeral, which, wow, that's a Targaryen funeral if I've ever seen one. Like that's how they did it. They just completely consumed them with fire using one of their dragons because they can.
I wouldn't mind being buried or whatever like that. I wouldn't mind just having a dragon cremate me. So
it's like advanced Viking style.
Yeah.
Like there's no boat, there's no water, but we have a dragon. So we're just gonna light it up and you're good to go. Ashes, finished. The end.
Yeah. Call it good. Yeah. Let's go have some mead.
Yeah. It's like, all right, well, that was done, guys. Mead hall. Yeah. 15 minutes. Cool.
Oh goodness. But yes, very, very powerful first episode. I feel like it definitely set the scene for the rest of the season as well. Like you just know that they aren't going to hold back. And of course, we're going to have this conflict with Rhaenyra and being being the heir, and whatnot, and what's going to happen there. So I can't remember. It might not be until the next episode when Viserys the king is like, oh, I guess I should name my heir. You know what? I'm going to defy everybody and my entire council, and I'm going to pick my daughter. So I think it was the next episode. I don't think it was that same episode as the funeral.
No, it was the very end because it was the first episode was super loaded. So like even remembering where that transition was, I don't even remember where the transition was because it was just like, what is happening? Holy okay. And then you just kind of went into
yes. Well, I guess originally the heir was Viserys's brother, who's Daemon, who's played by Matt Smith. And so he's being a little butthead, to say the least. And so Viserys is like, I don't know if I really trust my brother. He's very reckless. He's very, I just don't want him to do it. And so that's why he like officially named his daughter as the heir. And so I think a lot of people were upset by that, including Daemon. Including Daemon.
Oh, Daemon was very upset by that.
There were other options too that they were considering because they thought Daemon wasn't the right fit. I can't remember who else it was. Because it really was like, we can't have Rhaenyra. I can't. We cannot have Rhaenyra be because she's a girl, and it's never been done before.
Mm-hmm. So it might have been his. Oh gosh, I cannot remember all of the relations. But there's Lord Corlys.
Yes.
The sea snake.
The sea snake.
That's they're doing a spin-off of him, which I think sounds great. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Ooh,
yeah.
All the spin-offs, please. Yeah.
Yes, right.
So they're like cousins, I think.
Yes.
He's married to the king's cousin.
Viserys's cousin. And
when I tell you, I pulled up a family tree for a half an hour and studied it because I couldn't figure out where all the relations were. And it's like everybody's name is Daemon, and Daemon. Aegon, Aemon,
and Aegon,
and Aegon,
Rhaenyra. Oh, Rhaenys. Oh, that's her name. Rhaenys.
Rhaenys. I think
she's married to Corlys.
She's married to Corlys
because she was the queen that never was, or whatever her name was, or like but she.
Yeah.
Was she his sister? And then
I think
it's because they're cousins.
Yeah, I think
everyone's a cousin.
But I saw a meme today that said every Targaryen ever, this is my dad and also my uncle, which just is like accurate.
Well, like we all look at it and we're like, this is so weird. But you had that moment when you were watching it where you were like, I'm jumping ahead a little. I'm not going to say too much, but it was that moment where you were like, but that's your uncle. And then not even 5 minutes later, you're like, but what about your uncle?
Yeah, right.
It's very conflicting. It's very conflicting because you're sitting there, you're like, I shouldn't like this, but now it's weird, but now I like it. And I don't know how to feel about it. So
it's seriously the whole show.
Okay, so the first 2 or 3 episodes, I felt like there was definitely sexual tension with Rhaenyra and Daemon.
Her uncle.
I personally also felt there was sexual tension between Rhaenyra and Alicent.
Her like lady's maid.
But she
or lady in waiting or whatever. I don't know what the term
is. But she doesn't really have like a bow or anything. That's such an old-fashioned word.
Bow. I was thinking like a bow, like a like. I was like, what? She doesn't carry weapons.
Want to be queen. It's kind of like it's this weird kind of situation because it's like this monumental thing to declare a woman as the heir. But then she's like, I wish that my brother would have lived so that I didn't have to deal with all the political crap.
Yeah.
She kind of wants to be a dragon rider warrior chick.
Mm-hmm.
Which is cool.
Yeah. Just like ride off into the sunset and like not deal with any of this.
Right.
And she probably would have been better off.
I can bang all my ladies in waiting and my uncle as much as I want.
Yeah.
As a dragon rider chick. Proper name. That's not. There's probably an official name for that somewhere, but
I don't know. My friend and I call him Spicy Uncle, so that's basically what we've been calling it.
Yes,
Spicy
I love
Uncle. Oh gosh. Well, there's like that whole scene where he like takes her to that whorehouse, and you're just like, and that's when it's still the younger actress.
That's what I was going to ask. Is that before the time jump?
Yeah, it's before both time jumps because. Yeah, well, I guess
they
there was only the one. They didn't change those two. There were their kids. They changed a couple times. That's why I'm getting confused. Yeah, but no, Rhaenyra and Alicent, there was only one actor change. But anyways, before they went to the older actresses, so she's like young, and you're just so like, Daemon, what are you doing? Like this is wrong. But at the same time, you're like, huh.
I'm laughing because my friend and I were like, we were like Spicy Uncle. Like that's so cool. She's gonna watch this and laugh because she's like, that was my thing, Spicy Uncle.
It's so conflicting because you kind of like it and you're like, I shouldn't, but I do, but I kind of do.
Yeah, and it's probably a huge part of it is Matt Smith. The actor, to be honest, he did an amazing job. Yeah, he was giving
the white hair. Right?
It's like back to those. It's like back to those days when the Fellowship of the Ring first came out, and all of a sudden you see Orlando Bloom, and he's in this beautiful blonde wig, and you're just like, oh, wow, he's really attractive. You know, like I didn't ever really think of Orlando Bloom in that way.
It's the hair.
It's the hair.
It's the hair because it's the same with Witcher. Everybody goes, huh?
Yes.
Yeah. Why does this work?
Speaking of Witcher, here's my little Witcher Funko
Pop. Nice.
Marlee had a hard time with that.
I know. I'm like,
I did that too earlier. I was like, "Where's my name?" There it is.
Yes, there's my little Witcher Funko Pop right there behind. Top of my head.
For the first episode, maybe two, I live texted Marlee my reactions.
She did.
And so for the first couple episodes, I hated Viserys because I felt like he was a dick, not just a dick, but a misogynist dick. Even though he like made Rhaenyra his heir, it was like kind of like a prideful thing. Like, people can't tell me what to do. This is what's going to happen. And then at some point he starts saying like, hey, I need you to get married. And then it's like, no, let's not do that.
Yeah.
But he does start to soften up when he marries Alicent.
Yes, which I don't think that was a surprise to anyone, especially when
it was to the elders in the room when he announced that it was Alicent and not the 12-year-old girl.
His daughter.
Oh yeah, instead of his like niece.
It was Corlys's kid.
Yeah, I guess that's true. But at the same time, like us as the audience, like as soon as so after the wife died, Emma, I think is what her name is, Emma, whatever.
Probably Emma.
I think it's yeah.
It couldn't be something simple like Sarah.
Where's the tree?
I know. I think it's Emma, but anyway, Emma, whatever. However you say it, it's AEMMA. But after she died, and then like you could kind of see Alicent kind of, cozying up to the king a little bit. She was like kind of being like a little bit like a caretaker.
Her dad, who is the hand of the king, literally says, "Why don't you go see if you can offer him some company?" Which was like,
yeah, it was on purpose.
Stop. No, do not offer your daughter up.
But I think at the same time, like, she wanted to, right? Like, I don't think, I mean, I think for, at least from my perspective, like, I think she genuinely had, like, caring feelings for him. Like, she cared about him. Like, yeah, he's a lot older, a lot older and everything. But, like, I don't know. I think she truly cared about the king.
I don't know if she did at first. As a 16-year-old girl, kind of being offered up by your father, maybe you have like some empathetic feelings, but I don't feel like it was, I don't feel like at the beginning it was in her head, I want to do this to make a political move to become a queen.
No. I think it was her dad. It was 100% her dad pushing that.
Yeah. And I don't think it was, I want to do this because I have intimate feelings for him either. It might have just been like a familial kind of thing, because they've been together in the same palace for forever.
Yeah, but then she also, I feel like, all those times alone, like when she's just kind of like keeping him company, I'm sure even then, like, she's like, you know what, he's actually a really nice man. Like, so maybe it wasn't like, yeah, of course it wasn't, probably wasn't her original idea, and she didn't really want to do that, but maybe I think at some point she grew fond of him. I mean, she had his babies. That kind of maybe helps a little bit.
There's a whole scene of him sexing her that does not pleasant.
I guess that's true. I forgot about that part.
She enjoyed the act.
Well, he can apparently even do so much anyways because of his health. Oh, that poor man.
Yeah. He had leprosy.
Is that what it was?
Leprosy.
Okay, I'm like, what was even going on with him?
That's why he was falling apart like Legos that had oil poured on them. He was just like, so he was a mess. But that's what it was. Apparently it was leprosy, because I was trying to figure it out too, but it made sense because his body was kind of
Well, I thought it was going to be what is the okay, so I looked it up. Sorry, I'm like having two thoughts right here. I looked it up. Leprosy is not very contagious, honestly. And I feel like if you grew up in any sort of like Christian, in the Bible, they talk about leprosy a lot. And so it feels like it's a big deal, and it feels like it's problematic, like it's going to spread super quickly. At least that's how I always thought about it.
Yeah, because they're always like, they're unclean.
Not very contagious, not like a huge worry. They don't even really know. It's like a mouth to mouth like transition has to occur for you to get leprosy from someone. So
maybe that's why Alicent never got.
It's too intimate to kiss on the mouth.
Just in case.
I mean, yeah, like I don't think they were intimate, and obviously, no.
And then what were we talking about before I got into my leprosy?
I don't even know. Just Alicent,
whether or not Alicent having feelings for him, which I mean, I think they developed as she got older.
Right.
Yeah. She did seem to care about him, but I think she even said something at some point where she was like, I did everything that you told me to her father.
That is true. So it's definitely more of like a out of duty, out of like a sense of duty.
I think she wanted to get on his good side because she did want her son to take over Rhaenyra's spot as heir too. So I think that there was some of that drive as well.
Well, yeah, especially once they started, having kids. Very, very obviously blonde children.
Targaryen children.
So yeah, that's obviously once we get to the time jump, which there was quite a few episodes before they did the time jump. Let's see, there was 5. So I guess it's about halfway, but still, it felt like it was a lot longer. I kept like waiting, and I'm like, I know this time jump is happening at some point.
It's funny too, because a lot of people were like, why did they do this time jump? And I'm like, because there's literally a 10-year span where they're just having kids, and like no one's watching Rhaenyra with spicy uncle, so like you lose interest.
Yeah.
So they had to do a time jump, which makes sense. There was nothing to talk about in that 10-year span that we couldn't have covered in the episode 6, basically, where they came back and explained everything that happened. And there really wasn't much to talk about. So there was like a whole bunch of loaded stuff in the beginning, and then time jump to get rid of those random 10 years with nothing going on, and then
yes.
And they definitely had to set the scene of like why Rhaenyra and Alicent are feuding. Why when Rhaenyra decides to take on the title of heir on herself and like accept that role.
That is true.
Idea of her having to get married to make a political to get married to be politically in the game, things like that. So there is a lot of setup in those first.
And she marries her cousin, Laenor.
Yay.
I love the scene where it's, what is it? Is it the Baratheon? No. When
Lannister.
the one guy tries to hit on Rhaenyra and she's just like, not.
Is it the Lannister? It's the Lannister guy. Yeah, and he's a twin.
Yes, of course he's a twin. I remember.
Of course he's a twin. Oh my gosh. But we have to, okay, wait, hold on. I want to back up a little bit because we talked a little bit about Rhaenyra, and I have to say spicy uncle since that's what we're calling him now. Like that whole scene, like after they were at the whorehouse and then he was like, wait a second, what am I doing? And he like leaves her there. And then I feel like she all of a sudden was like, I need to, get it on with somebody. And so she chooses her like knight, who is like her guard, Sir Criston Cole. Sir Salty.
That's his new name on the internet is Sir Salty.
Oh my gosh.
I had words that aren't appropriate for this podcast about what I think about him. But
I liked him at first.
Yeah,
I liked him at first.
nice.
Like he seemed like really cute, and like it seemed like it was a very typical I feel like a very typical Targaryen thing to be banging your knight, because I mean we saw that in Game of Thrones with Daenerys and gosh, what's his name? We were just talking about this stuff. The one that we're like, oh, we prefer this one much more over Sir Criston Cole.
Long hair cutie.
Yeah, what is his name? Anyways,
Dario.
Well, which one? The actor before or the actor after?
The actor after. Okay, yeah, the long hair one he was cute, but the second Dario is better.
Yeah. But anyways, so yeah, there's like this whole thing that you can tell that like Rhaenyra is not, she just wants to choose her own path. Like she's like, well, I guess I'll get married, but I'm gonna keep things up with him. And especially once she got married to her cousin Laenor, like I think obviously at that point we knew that Laenor was in love with his friend,
his knight,
yes,
yeah, I guess it's probably just a friend. I don't know if
I think I don't think he was like a guard. I think he was
like his
just
sparring partner. I don't know. They used to sword fight and stuff. He might have been like his training. I don't know. I'm making this up, but
yeah. And so Rhaenyra is like, well, since we like other people and we're not really that into each other, let's just keep our side partners, but we'll get married.
And we'll do the duty and have the bebas.
But I don't think they ever did.
They didn't. It's in the books that that was not a thing. Like they tried, but he could not because he was not into it. So
yeah.
And
that's
so that's why they all have black hair.
Yeah, I'm like, that's why she went with her other manservant. What's his name?
Well, that's because of
Harwin.
Sometimes the nicknames are better.
Guy had a freak out and was like, well,
was that
give up your crown and come live with me.
True.
And
on the ship.
Like, who the hell do you think you are, man? Like, no.
Oh, yeah.
I think part of that was because as like the knights, the King's Guard or whatever it was, they're supposed to take a vow of chastity, and he completely broke that.
Yeah.
And then he was like, I broke this for you. And she was like, oh. She was like, nah, I was just feeling it, and now I'm not feeling it. And then he was like, I'm so salty.
Yes.
Because I'm so upset about losing my virginity.
Yes, he's like so pious about it. Like, I have ruined all of my vows to this. And he gets to this woman and starts to really despise and hate her and blame her for him giving up his vows, even though it was a consensual act of them together.
Yeah.
He thought it was something different than what she thought it was.
And then at the betrothal party between Rhaenyra and Laenor, he like freaked out. That's right. He killed
his partner.
Oh yeah, Laenor's. Yeah, that's right.
In the most gruesome, there's 2 deaths in this first season that were horrific, and that was one of them.
Yes.
He just pulverizes his face, smashes it till it's unrecognizable, and they do not shy away from with the camera. They lean into that.
The camera's like, let's get a zoom in shot. And I'm like, could you not? I could do completely without seeing that. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely.
And then like from doing something like that, you'd think that Sir Salty would be like banished to death or put in prison, but no.
Nothing.
Yeah, no. Did this, they all went, huh. And then they just went on with their dinner. Like, this is
fun. Well, especially because I think at that point he was starting to get a little bit closer with Alicent, and so she's like, don't worry, I'll protect you. And so she does, because he's still alive and nothing happens to him after that brutal murder.
Yeah. Gosh. In the middle of a party, like, come on, man.
Yeah, dude, calm down. Anyways, back to the time thing. So yes, because Rhaenyra, we find
just a slight homicide, and back to the incest.
But yes, Sir Harwin. I don't know if he has a nickname. If you deemed him a nickname, but I guess he's the baby daddy, Sir Baby Daddy, maybe.
Okay, yeah, he's baby daddy. Like, I don't think we gave him a nickname because we were stuck on Spicy Uncle and Sir Salty. I mean,
we all know that, like, it wasn't going to last with Harwin and her. We all know that.
No.
Spicy Uncle is endgame.
Yes.
As weird as that
is true. That is true. But it's really sad that
what ever come out of someone's mouth. Spicy Uncle is endgame.
At least we know that we're talking about House of the Dragon, because I saw something too. I have to say this. Somebody said hot D, and I'm like, is that someone goes, is that hotness of the daemon? Because what is that an acronym for it? I'm like, that's hotness of the daemon. Yeah. I was like, so I can't like unthink that now. I just had to get that out of my system.
Yes, but that's brilliant.
Back to her baby daddy.
Yes. And yes, unfortunately, he definitely doesn't make it. And it's also very obvious that Rhaenyra's children are not Targaryens, and everyone knows it, but no one's talking about it openly.
Well, and her husband has white dreads, and she has white hair. So to have brown-haired children
that look exactly like the guy that's training them. Yes, imagine that.
What recessive gene would you had to hit twice for both your little boys?
Yeah. Those
it
poor
was
boys.
Pretty obvious.
So there's all that conflict. Yeah, I know. There's like all that, and then they have like their, I guess technically, are they their uncles?
Yes.
Alicent and Viserys's kids. Yeah, so I want to say cousins, but they're not. They're uncles.
They're uncles of the cousins.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh gosh, it's so confusing. And those guys, man, I can't even remember all their names.
Aemon and
I have the tree on my phone.
Yes.
I pulled it up.
Aemon and like Eddard.
Aegon.
Shoot.
Aegon and Aemond.
Those are really the only ones
Helena,
we see.
Aemond.
Yeah, I guess there's Helena a little bit.
Well, Helena they skirt over it in the show, but Helena and Aegon are married.
Okay, I thought so.
Wait.
Yeah. Yes, the brother and the sister. Yes, the brother and the sister are married. They skirt over it because I think that they were kind of like, I know this is a thing, but it might be a little too much for the audience. So they just kind of like, you see it happen. That's why when the one cousin asked her to dance, Aegon got like tifty about it at that like dinner where they're all like, let's get along. And they were like, just until dad leaves the room and
until dad dies.
Yeah, until dad dies, then we fighting again.
That scene was so intense though, because you just knew something was gonna happen.
I knew she had a daughter, but they just like never showed, they always showed Aemon's wife. And so I was like, did they do that? Is that?
Yeah, I'll send you the chart because it's color coded. Red means sibling.
Oh Lord.
Orange means cousin, and yellow means uncle to niece.
Okay, well, and then I mean, to jump over a little bit more, when Damon and Rhaenyra get married, and then they betroth Rhaenyra's sons.
Well, no, they were betrothed before. Weren't they already? I thought her kids and his kids were betrothed before, and then those two still got married.
Before they got married.
Okay. You watched it more recent than
I watched it yeah.
Yeah.
So they got...
You need like a map.
They
like
got
an incest
betrothed
map.
to their step-sibling cousins. The children of their stepfather. Which should not... And not just the children of their stepfather. Their cousins. Their father's sisters. Children. Like, there's too many webs interconnecting here.
And this is why we have the Mad King later. Yes. Like, because Rhaenyra is technically Daenerys's, like, great grandmother. I looked it up. So, like, that's how far back we're going. But, like, the incest started even way before this show. It started like super early on. So by the time they get down to Daenerys, they're all sorts of wacky at that point.
Well, and then I guess that's the first scene of Daenerys and her brother, where she's in the tub, and then he touches her breast. That's not quite so weird when you know all this backstory.
Well, if you look at the map that I'll send you, Daenerys is the product of a brother and sister that are a product of a brother and sister.
Gross.
Yeah.
Gross.
So I was like,
thought they were going to get married. Ew.
I guess, that's how the Targaryens did it, though. And the Valerians, because they wanted to keep their, like, pure, their superior, like, bloodline, you know, because, like, they're the ones who, because I guess maybe you know this more than I do, Scarlett, but isn't there, like, a whole thing with, like, yeah, because obviously they're, like, not related, but they're connected to the dragons.
Yeah.
And so like, because not just anyone can.
Right.
Yeah.
So the Targaryens are known for, and none of them, the only one that can actually like walk through fire is Daenerys. That's the only one. But everybody prior to that, like, is a dragon rider. And it's the whole purity of the bloodline thing. Same with like Egyptian royalty, going back to that, they did the exact same thing. That's why King Tut was so messed up. So it's that same concept, and that's where it kind of comes from. And that historically is what people did, maybe not to this extent and not with really cool dragons, which would have been at least sort of an excuse, I guess, but it was to keep what if people had been like, oh, there's dragons, we get it, but it was just to keep the bloodline pure, because if you have an outsider, they're like, no, like that's too outsidey.
Don't bring that into
go marry your uncle. That's too outsidery.
Oh my gosh. Well, and is it so much so that, like, let's say some Lannister guy like went up to one of the baby dragons and is like, you're gonna be my dragon now, and like, you know, they do like that whole like bonding thing or whatever. Like, can a Lannister just like do that, or do they have to have like the Targaryen like blood?
It has to do with the Targaryen blood. That's what they kept reiterating over and over, and that's why they were so powerful. And even going into like the later episodes, they were like, well, we're battling this one, but like we have 4 dragons and they have 3 dragons. And it became like a math game of dragons. And the dragons are over there like, do I get to say anything in this? Or like, what's happening with this? But it had to do with the purity that they believe that nobody else can communicate with the dragons. So they have to keep it in their bloodline so that they can control them. Then they keep power, essentially.
Yeah, because like even Rhaenyra's children, who we know, at least the two older boys, there might be some other kids that they don't really show in the show.
Yeah.
But with Sir Harwin, like, because obviously they still have Rhaenyra's, you know, because they're still, you know, that's still part of the Targaryen line and stuff, because they're able to ride dragons.
Right. Yeah, because they're half, so technically, they still are Targaryen.
Do we ever see little baby Joffrey again? Even when the boys get a little bit older, I feel like we don't see Joffrey.
Yeah, there's a few of the kids that we don't see.
Well, even like, you don't really see Rhaenyra and Daemon's kids that much. You see them when she shows the baby to her father.
Yeah.
But like you don't really see.
And there's like one other kid. There's like at least 2
There's
of
like
the
5.
Yeah. They pop out a few kids.
You
can tell because they're blonde.
The most important are the first 2 on both sides.
Yeah, those are the ones they definitely put more focus on.
Yeah, there's Viserys and Aegon And then there's Jacaerys, Lucerys, and Joffrey.
Goodness gracious.
So there's like 5. The part that's confusing when you look at this is because they marry so many relatives, you're like, wait, is that this one's child or this one's wife? Or like this, it's confusing. You'll see when you look at it. It's really weird. It's very colorful. Not in a good way. But yeah, they didn't show like 2 or 3 of the kids. It's like, look, a baby. And then it was gone. And then you don't really see it again.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Take it to the wet nurse and bring it to me when it can ride a dragon.
Basically, yeah.
But yeah, so backing up a little bit. So at this point, Rhaenyra is married to Laenor, and they kind of have like their silent agreement where they'll still, get with their own partners as they wish. But then you can just tell that like Laenor is just not happy. Like he's just not there. He doesn't want to be there. He'd rather go and be with his boyfriend and not be like even present to his children, because obviously those aren't actually his children. But Rhaenyra is like, we need to uphold some image because everybody's saying that those aren't your kids, but we know they're your kids. And he's like, and obviously like, we're like, no, those aren't his kids. Like we all know.
We're like,
that was the big thing, is that everyone knew, but Viserys wouldn't ever admit it because then it would take away Rhaenyra's claim to the throne.
Yeah. And so then
they kind of fatherly thing of protection, but also like, come on, man.
Yeah.
I'm like Team Rhaenyra all the way, but you cannot deny.
I know. I love how they're like proving it. And they're like, how dare you say that? And we're all just like, they don't they look like the other dude, but that's fine. We'll just fake it.
Yeah, we'll just ignore it. Okay.
Back before they had like bleach hair dye. They could have totally faked it.
Or wigs.
I was like, wigs and hair dye, she could have been like, put this on your head for a couple of years. You'll be fine.
Yeah, seriously.
They
oh my goodness.
Ash in their hair nightly. Come on. I could have come up with some sort of idea for them.
Oh my goodness.
But this whole idea that like especially Alicent's kids know that Rhaenyra's kids are not from their father causes a huge void between the families.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, then Aemond, is that the oldest? Alicent?
Aegon is the oldest. The other one, the one with longer hair and eventually gets the eye patch. I always think he's older, but he's the second oldest.
Yeah, he's the Sephiroth duo. Yeah, he's the second oldest.
I actually understood.
He looks like
Sephiroth.
Yeah, he looks like Sephiroth with an eye patch. He's like Pirate Sephiroth. It's fine.
Yeah, I don't really know the reference, but I understood anyways,
that's how I told them apart, because all their names are like Aegon, Aemond, Aegon, Aerys squared, and I'm like, Spicy Uncle, Sephiroth duo, My Chemical Romance, and
oh my gosh,
it does look like Gerard Way. Damn it, he does.
You're welcome. Now you'll at least remember which one's which. So you're like, My Chemical Romance is Sephiroth. So
welcome to the Black Parade.
Oh my gosh.
They should have an episode named that next season.
Mm-hmm.
So there's the ever-present idea that Aegon is like, and from his mom and like his grandpa pushing it in his ear, you should be on the throne. You should be on the throne. Viserys is going to give it to you one day. It's not going to be Rhaenyra. It's going to be you.
It's your right.
So there's this big, the cousins are not friends.
No.
Yeah.
And then it causes a huge scuffle where a person loses their eye.
And steals a dragon. Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, that's what
dead
caused
mom's dragon.
And not just any dragon.
And that was Daemon's kids with the other one, the other cousin. Lane. Yeah.
It's not Laenor, but they have like very similar names.
I love how I'm like, we know the names, but I can't think of it.
I know. I even watch this show with subtitles just so I can better pay attention to the names and who's who.
It's
still hard.
Laena and Daemon, and then Laena and Daemon had Baela and Rhaena.
George, do better with these names.
Come on, George. We're really pulling for you here. So Yes, and so I think Rhaena was supposed to get that dragon, which now I'm forgetting the dragons' names because all these names are the same.
Oh gosh.
Because the dragons are a big important part too. So the one that he took from her is the largest and oldest.
Yeah, it was a war dragon for sure.
Yeah.
It was, gosh, what are the names of the dragons? Vagar?
Vagar, I think you're right.
Vagar?
I'm just laughing because it's like he put all these letters out. He's like, Aemon. He goes, and we're just gonna switch these two. And now it's Daema. Like that's the next name. I don't blame him. There's a lot of characters, but that's why we're Googling to make sure we're getting the names correctly.
Yeah. There's
true.
I mean, I bet George R. R. Martin has to like check his notes throughout.
He probably has a chart. Like if I was him, I would have been like, okay, this one's this one, this one's this one. Like that's how do you keep it straight?
He's like publisher made him a little app so he can type in the name to see how the characters are related to each other.
Right. Cousin and uncle and daughter of this guy. Vanguard?
It's Vagar.
Vagar.
Vanguard is what they call
the guy. Oh gosh, no. The cult leader.
Oh god.
Yeah, no, there's Vagar.
He would fit in well in this crowd. Let's be real.
Ew. Vermax, Maylees, Sea Smoke. Yeah, there's a lot. Caraxes. Caraxes is Spicy Uncle's dragon.
I would assume Sea Smoke is one of Corliss's uncles. Dragons.
That is actually Laenor's dragon.
Okay. So of the Corliss, the Sea Snake family.
Oh, there's one named Dreamfire.
Yeah.
Nobody has that one yet though.
And there's a couple that are unclaimed. The one that this is going all the way to the end, but Daemon tries to get the one that's the next largest, next to Vagar.
Vermithor.
Yes. And he was a nasty looking, like,
yeah.
He looked pretty evil.
Well, there was one point I thought that Daemon was going to have a Daenerys experience where he walks through the flames, and you're like, oh, because he was getting grumpy. The dragon was getting grumpy with Daemon.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's like, you woke me up. I don't want to be part of any of your shenanigans. He's like, leave me alone. I don't want to be here. I'm just trying to nap.
So the Spicy Uncle and Rhaenyra finally get married after all the sexual tension, after all the
because they faked Laenor's death so he could run away.
Okay,
and
also
live.
A gruesome death.
Yeah, well, they had to like hide the real identity.
Right.
They had to like burn his face so they could just be like, "Oh yeah, that was him," but
and
it wasn't him.
Just goes out. They just lost their daughter, and then your heart goes out for Rhaenys and Corlys.
That poor family.
And then they get married.
Attractive family,
like pretty immediately after.
They're so attractive.
They are very attractive.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
But yes, and then like almost immediately after, it seems like Rhaenyra and Daemon are like, "So you want to get hitched?"
They're like, we want to get married, but I think they were talking about it because they were like, we want to get married, but we have this obstacle.
Yes.
And then he went to like the guy that essentially became a hitman, but it was all planned.
It was all planned, yeah.
Which was an interesting part. Like, there's so many things in the book that were left open to interpretation because it was people's accounts of things. And this was one of the ones that was left open to interpretation. So in the book, the person that was talking about it was basically saying they murdered him, but what actually happened in the show could have very possibly happened because the person giving the account had a biased account and didn't actually see what happened. Which is interesting. So there's some things that they took a lot of leniency with that. So this could have completely happened. There's no way to say one way or the other. There's other things that they could have they really couldn't have taken as many liberties with, I guess, but they did anyway, which is fine. But this is one of the ones that was like super open to interpretation, I guess. So they ran with it.
I really liked the idea that Rhaenyra let him go and was like, I know, like, she's taking what she wants too. She knows that if she wants to be as powerful as she can be, she needs Daemon by her side. And also after all these years, she still honestly, not the seduction scene, but their connection on the beach. I really like, not just because it's finally them getting together, but she was very empowered to be like, I want you. And not only do I want you, I want the power you give me. Because she is embracing her role. She is like, I know I'm not a great person, but I need to do these things to be a great ruler. So, so anyways, I really like that. And then I like the idea that she's not like cruel. She's not an awful human. She's going to let her husband go and figure out a way that they can both get what they want. So I like the idea that they worked it out together.
I did too. I was like, that's one person that I would like to not die. There's others that I'm like, if they die, that's fine. Like, it's cool. But like, he was actually a good character. Like, it was nice the way they sent him off.
I know. I liked Laenor a lot. Like, so when they were planning that whole thing, I was like, please don't die. Please don't die. But yeah,
it's kind of cute. Like, he shaved his head, and it's like, I'm starting my new life because my hair's no longer white. So he just went about his way. I don't know. It was cute. Shave my head and go. So now you know how to, like, if you want to disguise yourself as a Targaryen, shave your head and just go anywhere.
He should have given his dreads to one of his children to wear.
Oh yeah.
I'm Glue this to your head. It's fine. Braid it in. No one will notice.
Oh my gosh. Just weave it in. It's fine. Yes.
Not problematic.
See? It's fine now.
See, these are Targaryen children. What are you talking about?
Just happens with puberty.
What brown hair? But yeah, so now, yes, of course, Rhaenyra and Daemon are finally together, and we're all happy about this, strangely enough.
We're like, yay, spicy uncle, finally.
I mean, I was happy. I was like, yes, like they're finally together.
Yeah, I had the same reaction, and then I was like, should I be conflicted about this right now? Like, I don't know.
I know, it's like quite the journey to get to this point, but I guess I'm here for it now.
Yeah.
Goodness. And then,
and everybody watches this and they go, well, they used to do that back then, so it's okay.
Right. We
that's
justify
your
it. Like,
process.
It's fine.
It's fine. It was back then, so it's okay.
It's true. And then at this point, we have another time jump, another 6 years, and like Rhaenyra and Daemon, they're like, we don't want to be in King's Landing, so we're gonna go to what is it, Dragonstone?
Dragonstone, yeah.
Yeah, we're like, we're gonna go live there. And so obviously, yeah, we get the time jump, and then we see that they've had a couple kids. Very obviously their kids because of their blonde hair.
Yes.
Oh goodness. And so yeah, you're still seeing like Rhaenyra kind of struggling a little bit. Well, not totally struggling. Like she is the heir, but it's almost like she's like, well, she is pregnant with a baby at this point, but she's also kind of like, well, I know my dad doesn't have much time left, and I should probably fix things. And I don't know. There's just like this whole thing where they decide to go back to King's Landing.
Becomes awful stepmom. Make her life hell so that my kids can get on the throne. So she was sick of it and left.
Yes, that is true.
But then Viserys is close to death with his leprosy.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, they have like this like super like awkward family dinner that we alluded to earlier. I don't know, was that in the second to last episode? I'm trying to look at this Wikipedia article.
So yeah, it was pretty close to the end. It was either I think second to last sounds about right.
The whole 9th episode was in Allison's point of view, or at least like Team Green's point of view.
Well, the episode is literally called The Green Council.
Yes.
That episode was nuts.
Yeah.
Because that's when Viserys finally dies.
Yes, Viserys dies. Okay, so on Viserys' deathbed, what do you think he was trying to say? Because Allison obviously took it as, I want Aegon to be my heir.
He should be on the throne.
I kind of feel for Allison. I don't think that's what he was saying.
I don't think so at all.
So
but Allison wanted it so bad that that's obviously what she was going to hear.
I think so. What he was saying, it basically because he was so out of it, and then he was on the milk of the poppy and he was falling apart.
Right.
He thought he was still talking to Rhaenyra.
Yep.
Right.
Because they were having that conversation. And then like he went in and out of it. And then by the time she came in, he thought he was still talking to his daughter. So he's talking about, you know, A Song of Ice and Fire and everything. And she's thinking he's talking about My Chemical Romance when he's actually talking about, yeah. So I think that's what happened. So she was like, aha, like he does want my son to know. Like he was just so whacked out at that point that he thought she was Rhaenyra and was still talking.
Yeah. And at what point are you like, go home, honey, you're drunk. I can't take what you're taking like seriously. But again, she just wanted Aegon to be on the throne so badly.
Yeah, she heard what she wanted to hear, and so then she ran with it. And I thought that was such an interesting scene when she goes to the council and she's like, so this is it. And then like Viserys dies, and all of a sudden the council's like, oh, okay, we're ready for our plan that we've had in action for years. And she's like, wait, what? Like they're just totally like, hey, Team Aegon, he is the heir. We're taking over.
And in the awkward family dinner scene, Alicent and Rhaenyra kind of have a little bit of a reconciliation. They both acknowledge each other's hardships and what they've been through. And again, I feel like this almost alludes to the idea that they were really good friends, if not lovers, before. And they know that what went on has just tear them apart from this connection that they had before.
Yeah. They probably realized they actually had a lot. Yeah. And they had a lot more in common than they thought, especially once they started having children and
2 women doing what they had to do.
2 mothers.
Yeah. So Alicent does kind of stand up for Rhaenyra and is like, you can't just do this and not tell, or at one point they're like, she won't take it lying down. We need to just get rid of her. And she's like, no, you cannot kill the daughter of the king.
That is true. She does try to stand up for them a little bit. And I think she definitely was shocked, you know, when they're like, hey, yep, we're putting Aegon on the throne. Here's our plan. It's in action. Here we go.
Yeah.
And so she's kind of like, oh, okay. Yep, I guess we're doing this. And so she really likes, I feel like a switch flipped. And she's like, okay, yep, this is what we're doing. We got to get all of our plans in place. We got to like basically put all of the servants and the house, like all the people who like run the household, they locked them away so that they couldn't tell anybody that Viserys had died. Like they put the whole house on shutdown.
As well as Rhaenys.
Yeah, so Rhaenys was there too, and she was pissed.
Yeah.
That was intense.
And
also that they couldn't get word to Rhaenyra that her dad died.
Can we talk about how awful of a human Aegon is?
Oh my god. And yeah, that whole scene trying to find him and who knows where he is. He's just off gallivanting in King's Landing.
Going to a children's fighting ring?
Oh that was awful.
I think they were trying to drive home like what a horrible messed up human being he is.
Right. And then at the fighting ring there's like this little blonde children and the child, and the guard's looking, is like, is that Aegon's? And they're like, yeah, probably one of many that he has running around. So yeah, they really are putting it in harm that he is an awful, horrible human being who should not be king. He doesn't even want to.
He's the oldest. Yeah, he doesn't even want to. You're right.
I know, he was like hiding behind a tomb or something, and he was like, no, don't make me go. And I was like, what the heck is happening right now? Like, he was like getting dragged out of there because he didn't.
Yeah, at one point he begged his brother to just let him go get on a boat and never be seen again.
Well, and even Aemond is like, look, I want the throne, but it's not mine to take. It's yours, so get your butt over here, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And he's just like, come on.
Do your duty. Yeah, Aemond, if anything, is all about doing your duty. In evil ways, but yes, doing your duty.
Yeah, he doesn't go about it maybe the right way, and he's a little scary, especially with that eye patch.
Yeah, he went from 0 to scary very quickly once they aged him up. I was like, oh, he was so small and weak, and I'm like, what happened?
Every time that he was like staring at Rhaenyra's kids, I'm just like, shh, get those kids out of there.
I know. I was like, he's literally, if looks could kill, those kids would have died twice in like every episode that he was staring at them.
Yes. And then, yeah, so the whole council like has this whole thing planned, this whole coup, and they basically get everybody in on it, including like the entire people, so that they can be witnesses to Aegon being crowned as the king and recognizing that he's the king. And that was very manipulative.
And that's who is on the Iron Throne.
Yes.
It's very important.
But Rhaenys is like, no, I'm not sure how I feel about all of this. And she has that really epic moment right at the very end. In true Game of Thrones fashion, the penultimate episode always has like something like huge that happens. And this moment, I thought this was so cool. So Rhaenys is like, I'm not sure how I feel about this. And she sneaks down to her dragon, which just so happens to be right under where they're doing this crowning of Aegon. And she just like bursts through the ground with her dragon. And she's like, haha, I got away and I'm going to go tell Rhaenyra. And she flies away.
And that was kind of crazy because she was let out by the one knight because they had her locked up and he was like, no, this is wrong. He let her out.
He was one of Aegon's knights. And it's like, I know what a crappy
the twins
guy is.
Yeah, the twins kind of split. One of the twins went on Rhaenyra's side and the other one stayed on Aegon's. But Aegon's wife earlier in the episode kept saying there's a monster in the floorboards. And everybody was like, yeah, okay, you're crazy. And they ignored her. She was alluding to her dragon that was beneath the floorboards. So that's how that all went. The big conflict thing that people were talking about was the fact that she didn't light them all on fire.
Yeah. She could have. She definitely could have.
I watched the whole, I don't know if you guys watched like the after episode where they talked about everything.
I don't think I watched that one.
It's really, it was interesting because I was curious why she didn't do it. And they said it was because of that conversation that remember Allison had that conversation with her and she said it was like a mother to mother thing. She just couldn't do it because she lost her children and she could not bring herself to, because I mean, if she did do it, that book would have been really short.
Yeah, for real.
There would have been no war. Like that would have been it. Everybody would have been done.
That is true. That is very true.
So instead,
so instead she's like, well, I know where to go and to ignite this war. Pardon the pun. So yes, that's like the end of that episode. And so then in the final episode, Rhaenys catches up with Rhaenyra and tells her about how King Viserys is dead and that Prince Aegon, they put him in place of the throne. And actually the news shocks Rhaenyra into like premature labor. So again, she's pregnant. You know, we mentioned that earlier. And that here is another, like, it's interesting how the very first episode and the very last episode, we have two pretty traumatic birth scenes. So it's kind of interesting how they kind of bookended that with this show.
Right. Yeah.
But I think it just kind of furthers the whole like overarching theme of this show about how it's all like it's about family, it's about motherhood, it's about, you know, succession and all of that interesting stuff. But
doing what you have to do to get the throne.
Yeah, exactly.
She loses her baby.
That was so sad.
Yeah, that was really sad.
The stillbirth.
And then it kind of like instills in her this idea that she needs to now start getting everything else in line. Because this was a shock. This kind of messed her up a lot, and now it's time to get it done and make sure that she that she takes back the throne.
Yeah, exactly. She's like, okay, well, I guess I got to keep moving forward, and this is what we're dealing with, so we're gonna keep going with this.
Time to start gathering the allies.
But even then, like at the funeral for the baby, everybody, you know, there at Dragonstone is hanging out with her, and they're like, you know, basically recognizing her as the queen, especially when that twin Gosh, I feel like we should know their names.
Yeah, they had
Lannister twin A.
Names, twin A and twin B.
It was Eric and Eric.
What?
Oh yeah, Eric and Eric. You're right.
Eric with an E, Errryk, and then there was Eric. I think it's Arryk.
So it's Eric and Eric.
The Lannisters have always been sadistic.
Got really creative.
They're not. No, these aren't the Lannisters.
Oh, fine.
No, their last name is Cargill.
Oh, those damn Cargills.
But yeah, he shows up and he has the crown. Like, whose crown was that? Was that Viserys's? Okay. Yeah. And so he's like, "Here, Rhaenyra, you're the queen, and this is my proof to you that I am going to swear fealty to you." And then everybody else bows, and it's a really cool moment. And then everybody just kind of hurries and like gets into planning mode. And then I don't know if it's at that point or if it happens earlier, but I have to talk about that table for a second at Dragonstone.
The table,
the painted table.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I saw a meme. I don't know if I sent it to you, Steph. I can't remember if I did or not, but there was like a meme about that was like, poor crap, I'm gonna totally mess this up because I can't remember the name, but there's the guy from Game of Thrones, like when they go to Dragonstone and it's like abandoned, and he you see him at the table. Was it Stannis Baratheon? I think it was Stannis. Yeah, and so it's like the meme was like, did no one tell Stannis that table lights up or something like that? Because we see this table, this really gorgeous stone table light up, and like it comes up through, and you can like see the map, the world map, and everything. So that way you can like make your battle plans and whatnot. But that was so cool looking.
That was cool.
Yeah,
I want that in my like living room, just as a
right.
That'd be a conversation starter,
right?
Or like
look at my table, this lava.
Yes, or even like a D&D table or something.
Right?
Oh yeah.
That would be cool.
That would be really cool. Oh my goodness.
And then it's about at this point they're trying to get their allies, and Rhaenyra's two sons decide to go be emissaries for her.
Yeah. Oh gosh, this part. Poor little Lucerys. So there's Jacaerys and Lucerys, right? Yes. And Lucerys, he's the second oldest. He takes his little dragon and goes to the Baratheons.
The Baratheons. Baratheon.
And he surprisingly sees another dragon there. And it's a big one. And it's one we all recognize as Vhagar. And you just like, I don't know about you guys, but like chills went down my spine.
It's not going to end well.
Well, and the best meme that I saw was like a guy in his car, and it's like me pulling up and then seeing Vhagar, and it just shows him putting it in reverse.
Yes, that's what he was like.
I was like, why didn't he leave? He was like, no, I need to honor my family. I'm like, no, get out of there. Like, what are you doing?
GTFO.
Like, just leave. That's the moment that you back out. This guy hates you. His dragon's huge. Just go.
And
your mom will forgive you.
Yeah, mom would have been like, I'm glad you left.
For reals. Long story short, Vhagar eats him. Like, it just is.
That was a crazy scene when they're like flying. And the thing is like Aemond, because he's the dragon rider. He he didn't want to hurt Lucerys. He just wanted to scare him.
I think he wanted to hurt him, but he didn't want to kill him.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. That's a fair statement.
Because he's still at the same time wanting his eyeball.
But that's true. He's like, eye for an eye.
Very focus of him. Your eyeball. So weird.
But no, man. And that was kind of an interesting thing too that they showed in that scene, is that the dragons don't always listen to their dragon riders.
Kind of vengeful against each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because his little dragon, I feel like I could look up the name again, but the little dragon was like, it's Arax.
Yeah.
He also like was like, well, I'm not standing for this. And so he blows a puff of fire at Vhagar and tries to get away. And Vagar's like, excuse me, little pest? I don't think so. And so then he was like totally not listening to Aemond anymore and just went after him and ate him.
Yeah, that was
that was rough.
And the actor who plays Aemond does like the best facial expression of like just sheer terror that he just started a huge ass war.
And this is the scene that had a lot of controversy, because this is the one that in the book they left something out apparently, where I guess after that interaction where he's like, no, I'm not going to fight with you, he would then leave, and the girl that was talking to Aemond says something along the lines of him not basically insulting his manhood because the cousin wouldn't even fight him. So in the actual story, he then went after him and killed him on purpose, which is very Game of Thrones.
Right.
So that was the only thing that people were kind of like, they took that vulgarity that would normally be in Game of Thrones away by making it an oopsie where the dragons were fighting. It was still horrific, but him being like, oh my God, I started a war. In the book, he knew what he was doing. And he was pissed. And he went after him and he was like, nope, we're killing him. We're going to start a war. I'm done with this. I'm pissed. And that's what apparently was what actually happened in the book. And that's where they were saying like there wasn't really a whole lot left open for interpretation because of who told that story in the book. So I thought that was fascinating because in Game of Thrones, they would not have hesitated to just be like, nope, you're dead.
Right.
Like, I want you dead. I'm done with it. So that was like a weird kind of, it made Aemond a little more human in a strange way, which you don't see too often in Game of Thrones. Usually it's like, if you're a jerk, you're a jerk. And that's the end of it, you know?
I kind of like it though, because I feel like it also shows like he's still a child.
Yeah.
He's still immature. His brain is still developing, but they have these children making these really big big decisions. And that's something he can't take back. I started, all of us started God of War this weekend.
Yes.
And Atreus is in it looking for a Nordic god of war. And it kind of made me think of House of the Dragon, of these children who like have heard about war and have like hear the glory of it and like coming like the heroes in it, and they remember that, but they don't necessarily maybe know the impact of it and what it really will do to the people, and how it really not just can kill people you love, not just you killing the bad people, the people that you're against, but it can tear apart your family. And so I felt like that was I like that idea of Aemond being like, well, shoot, this is going to happen now. There's nothing I can do to stop it. And yeah.
So like my question is, how did Rhaenyra, how did they find out that this had happened? Because like there was only two people there and two dragons.
Maybe the Baratheons?
Yeah, I'm like, who else how would they have gotten word back to them?
I was trying to figure that out too, because they didn't really cover it.
Been like, we're not going to talk about this. Keep on between me and my dragon.
Unless Aemond was like, I'll send a raven and tell them what I did. Yeah. I don't know.
There had to be, maybe they'll cover it in season 2. But yeah, they definitely skirted over that, where all of a sudden it was just like Daemon's gonna go tell her stuff and you're going, oh no, you knew what was gonna happen. I know
what happened. Yeah.
Yeah, you knew that was gonna happen. So it's like, okay, now she's gonna go a little cray-cray because of that.
Child. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like that very last scene with just that look on Rhaenyra's face and realizing what happened and what's about to happen was like, again, chills down my spine. And I'm just getting them even just now, just talking about it, because it was just like, oh, she is mad. And then it ends and you're like, no.
It's going to be 2 years until I see the next one.
Emma Darcy played Rhaenyra very well.
Yeah.
I liked her a lot. I liked her.
They had a very good cast, and some of the characters, I kept looking at them and I'm like, you look really familiar. And it took me a little bit, but there's some of them in there from The Last Kingdom, if you've watched that.
Oh. My sister keeps telling me I need to watch it.
It's really good, but Aemond is from that show, and so is Yeah, so is the princess that's married to her brother, that I'm forgetting her name.
Helena?
Yes. Yep, they're both from that show.
Oh.
So it's interesting because he has a very distinct face.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So as soon as you see him in Last Kingdom, you're gonna be like, oh, like that's definitely him. Like it's very obviously him.
Yes, very
But,
sharp features.
Yeah, they did a really good job with the cast transition. I thought that's rough to transition in such a short span of episodes. I mean, they're doing it in The Crown, but The Crown, it's like over several seasons. This is like, okay, we're gonna jump 5 episodes in and then 7
episodes.
Yeah, they did 16 years from beginning to end. There was 16 years.
That's crazy.
Quite a bit of time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I loved this season. I thought it was so good. Like, sure, there was some slow parts maybe in the beginning, a lot of talk, but I feel like it set the scene, and I'm very hopeful for season 2. I'm definitely gonna watch it. And I honestly kind of feel like I liked this better than Game of Thrones. But again, like, you have to remember, like, seasons, like, I don't know, 3 and 4 of like Game of Thrones were really good. You know, like, 1 was just kind of, setting the scene and everything. And so, like, if it's just going to get better from here, then I'm all for it.
Right.
And I think this is a great show, especially like if you missed the Game of Thrones bandwagon, or you've heard too many bad things about the finale and you just don't want to bother watching it, then like I feel like if, you know, as you're talking to your friends and family about this show, then just I feel like this is such a good like starting place, is like, okay, well then just watch House of the Dragon. Don't worry about Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones can come later.
Yeah.
There's a lot in between. There really is.
Yeah.
From what we just watched all the way to Game of Thrones starting. I mean, you're talking 200 years of time, minus 16. But it's still a huge span of time that they're covering. So you could watch all of this first and then maybe tap into Game of Thrones and see what happens there. But
yeah, definitely.
And now they have the Jon Snow spinoff coming, so we'll see what happens with that too.
They?
Yeah, but it's Jon Snow though, but now it's not like jumping backwards. It's like I think current, which is interesting.
Are they still supposed to be doing an Arya Stark spinoff too?
I don't know about that. There was a spinoff that they were planning, but they killed it, and I don't remember which one it was. But I know the Jon Snow one is happening, but that's current day, which I'm kind of curious to see what they're going to do with that.
Yeah, definitely.
There were some interesting, like, weird theories, which is that's a whole nother thing. But,
yeah, a whole nother podcast, man.
Yeah, that is a whole nother podcast with like the weird theories that they have that kind of makes sense. So
yeah,
I guess we'll see.
Well, I'm very hesitant about that, but I'll be honest, I was hesitant about this show.
I was
at the beginning. I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna watch that. Like, really? They have a spinoff? Like, okay. And then I watched, at that point, a couple episodes had already been out, and I watched the first one, and I was like, you know what? Actually, this was pretty good. I'm gonna keep going.
Yeah.
Really liked
Pleasant
it.
surprise.
I really liked it. There's lots of girl power and lots of nuanced humans that you cheer for and also hate. Which, what more can you ask for?
Spicy uncle.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I feel like we can't. Okay, just one last tiny tidbit, because I feel like we can't go this whole episode without mentioning all of the memes and references that House of Dragon, like comparisons that House of Dragon is getting to Shrek.
Oh my god.
Have you seen?
There's a whole video.
Have you seen this?
Music from Shrek? Yeah, and it's like the entire wedding scene, comparing it with like, I was like, oh my gosh, it's completely accurate.
Yeah, and how Alicent like is totally Fiona, and like all of this, like, oh my gosh,
the dragon.
Yes, that's all I want to talk about.
It's so true. It's so good. If anybody watching hasn't seen it, you need to look it up because it's hilarious.
It is funny.
There was a BuzzFeed article that had you choose between Game of Thrones characters and House of Dragons characters. And I wanted to do a couple of those really fast, even though we went way over the time we said we were going to go. So if you had to choose between Rhaenyra and Daenerys.
Rhaenyra.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I think
she's
so
more
too.
Interesting. I feel like she has more depth.
Alicent or Cersei?
Mm.
I choose Cersei, but Cersei's my favorite character in GOT. So
Cersei is just she's so. I'd probably also have to go with Cersei. I think Alicent's a little too like she's strong, but she's like whiny strong, and I can't get past the feet scene, so I'm gonna go with Cersei. We didn't even talk about that.
We did not even talk about the feet.
We jumped over that.
Who doesn't want to jump over that? That was
I think Alicent is self-righteous. She thinks she's doing bad things for good reasons. And holds that against other people. Where Cersei, she knows she's bad. She knows she's an awful human, and she's just like, I'm gonna do it anyways. Yeah. That's my MO. This is a tricky. Daemon or Tyrion?
Oh, I gotta go with Spicy Uncle. I can't help it. Sorry. I'm going with Daemon.
No, I like Daemon a lot, but like Tyrion is such a solid character, though.
He is. It's a tough choice. I just can't get past the hair, so I'm being shallow right now.
I'm kind of on that same boat.
It's like, Tyrion's really great, but that hair.
I'm excited to see where Daemon goes after this, and what happens with his character. Salty, Sir Salty or Dario?
Dario.
Yeah. Nobody likes Salty.
No.
Everyone's like, push him off the boat. We're done.
Okay, this is also Rhaenys or Olenna.
I think I like Rhaenys better.
I just can't get over Olenna and tell her it was me. Like, it's just so iconic.
We also had more time to watch the development of the Game of Thrones characters as opposed to we've only had one season. So the fact that we're even picking anyone from this one season over people in all of those seasons of Game of Thrones, it shows how much character development there was in the one season, because we are leaning towards some of those characters. We're having trouble. That's a tough one.
Yeah.
I think Olenna, though, I still like Rhaenys. I feel like I'm mad that she didn't burn them. I feel like that should have happened. I get it, but I'm also like, come on. That. So, yeah.
And then speaking of Mr. Foot Fetish, Larys Strong or Peter Baelish?
Peter Baelish.
I think Baelish.
I have to go with Baelish. I can't with the Foot Fetish. I was done.
like that. I like that actor better too. He just he does sinister so well. He does like that, like secret guy. I don't even know, like in the background, whatever that terminology is. My brain. Yeah, like he's just I feel like he does that kind of role so much better than this other guy.
He did a good job, but I feel like he came across, especially because they decided to put that scene in there, he came across a little bit more creepy sleazy instead of like
the
powerful.
Yes. Yeah. Just wants the power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like more
stuff, but
yeah, it's like that. It's still that same dynamic, but there was something about this that was just like, creepy. I don't know. It was the way that he was doing it that made it creepy. It wasn't like the actual act that was, if that makes sense. Like, it was the way he was doing it
in this podcast.
Yeah, it's the way he did it, because she very clearly was not into it and was being forced. That was the part that was like just cringy, for sure. So it's like, you do you, but like she was very uncomfortable, and that was obvious.
The coercion was
that made it a little cringy. So Baelish.
But yeah, I agree. The fact that we're choosing some of the hot Daemon people over the Game of Thrones people, the hot D, there we go. It's a good sign that it's a really it was a really good first season.
Yeah, I agree.
I enjoyed it. Yay! Well, I know
Sorry
there's
that was
more
so
we
long.
could talk about.
We had a lot to discuss.
So much.
There was a lot. There was so
part
much
of it was
happened.
us looking up the family tree.
Oh
so
God.
in our
that
defense,
is true.
we had to,
I wonder how much that'll cut out in editing.
Oh my goodness. Well, why don't we go ahead and do our closeout here? So again, I'm Marlee. We've got Steph with Age of Geek podcast. We're also on the Cutscenes and Cupcakes podcast, where we talk about video games. I didn't mention that at the beginning. And then we have our friend Scarlett. Yes. Scarlett, do you want to say again where people can find you?
You can find me on all social media channels. It's Scarlett Rose or just Scarlett Rose cosplay on some of them, but mainly it's Scarlett Rose.
Yay,
lovely.
awesome.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Of course, I had a lot of fun. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Always fun to talk about House of the Dragon.
Of course.
It is.
And
don't leave. I'm doing the outro.
This has been an Age of Geek media production.